figure out what we're doing. Okay, well, welcome everybody. And thank you so much for joining us on our collaborative culture call. I had sent out an email, I hope all of you received. And so that we get a chance to know who everybody is, we're going to have you introduce yourself and tell us why you're drawn or interested with this goal. Okay, so just to kick off, my name is Cecilia Wessinger. I'm the ESHIP community activator or manager, whichever you like to put in there, it doesn't matter to me. And my focus is on supporting the Ecosystem Builder Network. So I have a colleague, Christine Lai, who's focused on national resource providers. And joining us on the call today, I know we have Tyler and Hassan, who are ESHIP champions, who are a couple of people that have been doing a lot of work since the summit. Not that other people haven't, but they've been recognized by the community and in their efforts as people leading the charge. I think everybody is an ESHIP champion in their own right. We just don't know it yet. So, so I'm sure that we will have more ESHIP champions joining us. And you are probably some of them. So anyway, if you could tell us who you are and why you're interested. I'm all about culture. One of my passions is learning about community culture and how we can best create robust and vibrant communities that are beneficial to all. So that's why I'm here, plus the fact that I get a chance to work with all of you. So we're gonna popcorn and I'm gonna call on Tyler and go.
All right. I found a better spot. How are you guys? I'm Tyler Lecomte. Hassan, I know. Brett, Wynn. See a 386. We got that.
That's me, Wynn. Sorry, I'm on the phone and video.
I thought so. Hey, Wynn. Wynn and I are both in the 386. So I'm Daytona Beach, Florida. I am an entrepreneur and an ecosystem builder in training. I've been working with Cecilia for a couple months now. Gotten to know her and Hassan as well. And I'm just jumping on here really from the storytelling sideline. I want to kind of keep track of what all the groups are up to and listen in. I'll try to offer some opinions when asked. So Cecilia knows I tend to talk too much. So with that, I will popcorn over to my boy Hassan and put myself on mute.
Oh yeah, it's Hassan from Detroit, Southeast Michigan, entrepreneur and an entrepreneurial ecosystem builder. Been working with the group for a few months now. I've attended both ESHIP summits, and I'm really passionate about this work and passionate about strengthening the culture and collaboration between all of us. And I will turn it over to Brett.
Hey everybody, Brett Brenton with Forward Cities out of Durham, North Carolina. We are an organization that works pretty exclusively in this ecosystem building environment. I specifically oversee some of the readiness work that a lot of cities need to do in terms of, just assessing their existing resources and strengths and energy around inclusive entrepreneurship. And then we guide them through processes that help to expand that. We're working in over a dozen cities nationwide, more actively, and they're spread all across the country. I work specifically in Buffalo, Richmond, and Jacksonville, so not too far from Daytona.
So when I know Christopher very well. So I was part of the original group from Detroit, the original 4 cities of Forward Cities. So Yeah, I'm really familiar with your work and with Florida cities. So it's a great.
That's great. Very cool. Yeah, we're looking to expand on a lot of the work that was done with you all, New Orleans, Cleveland, and Durham on that first go round. And then also we've offered up a lot of variety of engagements so that people can come in on a real low level, or they can go deep for 2 or 3 year engagements to really not only try to design some strategies for implementation, but actually put them into practice too.
Okay, so Brett, as is our practice, I'll have you call on someone. I'm going to assume it's either Wynn or I believe that might be Vanessa on the phone from 505, unless it's Eric. So you pick.
I'll go Wynn then. Win for the win.
Hello, this is Wynn. I am the gray blob on your screen, or maybe this phone icon. I am in lovely Palm Coast, Florida. I work for the city here. Very interested in being a part of this group because I am working on connecting our entrepreneur ecosystem here in the 386 and really building this community and really making it stand apart as much as the area in Florida and then just Palm Coast itself. So lots of silos to break down, and I'm kind of in the thick of it, so I'm really interested in what we're doing and how I can apply it to what I do on a daily basis.
Excellent. That leaves us with, is that Vanessa?
It's Eric in the 505. How you doing? Yeah, and I'm just a gray blob myself, I believe. So yes, I've been at both of the ESHIP summits, doing some work on some of the goals, and there's some fun stuff going on here in Albuquerque. And this is one of the topics or goals that I haven't been all that directly involved with. So I'm really interested in kind of seeing how things are going and learning more. So thanks very much.
Okay, so for those who don't know, Eric works for so he's a great example of somebody who works for the government and works around ecosystem builders and kind of bridging the gap between the two. So so we're really fortunate to have Eric as part of our group and calls. So for those of you who, hopefully everybody received the email, and on the email would have been the description, the current description of the collaborative cultures. And here, I'm gonna share my screen, and let's see if that works. I've got a bunch of stuff on here, so let's see. Come on. Okay, whoops, no, it's the other screen. Bear with me 1 second. It is not happening for me today. I apologize. Technical difficulties, please stand by. Screen 2. No, that was my other screen. All right, I'm gonna have somebody else do it in a second. Goal initiatives, here we go. Okay, so can you see this? Which screen am I sharing?
Collaborative culture.
Okay, good. Okay, so thank you. So under collaborative culture, the things that the definition that you see here is what we received from the verbiage that came out of the ESHIP summit. And on top of that, there were edits that were suggested by the community, and then furthermore refined by some of the ESHIP champions that are on the call and others that met with us in December. There are currently 2 initiative briefs that are on this, and if you click into your email, you'll be able to see the structure of them. One of them says Sherpa. We're going to try to shy away from that language. We found that the term Sherpa is, it's not derogatory per se, but it's a little frowned upon. It's a commoditizing and marketing of a group of people, not a role. So when we click on, when we talk about cultural ambassador, we're really talking about somebody who is a guide. So we're going to take that out. We just wanted to leave the information there so that you can see where it started. And there'll be more information about these briefs. What we also discussed was some of this is a typical brief. It has a description and the problem that it's solving, goals, you know, what you usually see. But we found it's a lot, it's several pages, and what we want to do is create something that's a little bit more user-friendly. So the ESHIP champions are working on kind of a simplified version of something that we can share out. The reason for the simplified version as we work towards the ESHIP Summit is that we'll be able to present it to all the people that are present, and it'll be a quick reference as opposed to trying to scroll through all these documents. So what we're shooting for is a 1 to 2 pager that will be a good brief, and there's some examples. They're working on it. If you have any other examples or templates that you know of, we're very open to having you share those, because there's no reason to recreate the wheel if somebody's already done it. And so those 4 initiatives that are on your email, and please let me know if you didn't receive the email, Eric, I will send you a copy. Any of the ones that are already on the email, those are the ones that have been recognized by the community, by people at the foundation, by ESHIP champions as the ones that have bubbled to the top. The rest of the initiatives and any new ones are important as well, but we've got to start somewhere. So that's what this call and the focus of between now and the next ESHIP are that's what we're going to focus on. So, and then hopefully we'll also be a support for anybody who wants to create more initiatives, that this will be a group on a monthly call where we can work together and collaborate and help each other do it. So are there any questions initially? No, you're shaking your head. That's good. Okay. So, so I want to ask a question. So there were 4 initiatives that were recognized. I'm going to try to pull it up again on my screen. So there are 4 initiatives that were recognized. I'll put it in the chat. And 2 of them, like I said, already have initiative briefs started, and 2 do not. They were ranked in order of urgency, not importance, but urgency by people in the community. So is there something on here that speaks to you? And I know that Eric can't see them, but I will email Eric. And in the meantime, Tyler, why don't you talk about some of the things as you understand them while I email Eric.
Unmute. Okay, so you would like me to talk about some of the initiatives under the Goal 2, ones from what we talked about in Denver? Is that what you mean? Hello. All right. So what did we talk about? Oh, the convenings. That's right. The Cultural Ambassador Training Program, the Field Ambassador, and the Declarations page. I don't remember the convenings. I remember we discussed as a group as a way to just kind of start to micro some of the larger goals that we're hearing out of the ESHIP groups, and as a way to start to field test some of the things that are working. If I remember right, the Sherpa position, which again is a name we're not going to use, which I'm totally okay with. Connector, I seem to think, I think we kind of use Connector as a way. I know that's getting some headway in a lot of other fields as well, but someone from kind of a regional perspective to take the big path and make sure all this is kind of trailing down, if I remember. Is that right? Just you keep shaking your head, so I think I'm on the right path. And then the the training, yeah. So really, the convenings was a way to kind of do mini ESHIPs. That was it. You know, is after ESHIP 3, which is deliver per Captain Andy. After that, would it make more sense to use a regional connector position to organize more regional ESHIP stuff? Does that make it easier to bring in more people, you know, fill in the blanks, etc.? So I think that's it.
That was really great for short notice and calling on you. So, so no pressure, Wynn and Brett. We'll do that often. So I'm curious to know from Brett and Wynn, so having heard or seen the descriptions about the initiatives that that we've recognized as people that are just coming into this part of the conversation, do you have any questions about some of that, or why, or is there something of interest to you in particular? So just throwing it out to the two of you.
I really like all the initiatives mentioned. I think they're all very strong as an ecosystem builder, and then also too being a family of entrepreneurs. I think this could really have a really cool impact at the end of the day on what we're trying to do. So no, I love what has come out of this.
Great, Brett?
Yeah, agreed. I mean, based on my limited understanding right now, this all flows pretty cleanly. So seems like it's a good framing of this particular goal, but I obviously have a lot more to learn.
I think we're all kind of learning together, so so that's important. I wanted to point out
not learn, go, Brett, contribute.
So the Declaration of Collaboration Pledge, which is 2.4, the collaborative culture value system, is there's a lot of overlap, and you'll see the interesting part about these goals is that there are things that we're looking at on the field level that have to be able to work on a community level. So as we build a field and resources, what we want to do is be able to have things that are working on that you can take and put into each respective community. So that Hassan can use it in Detroit and Eric can use it in Albuquerque is really important. But at the same time, it's fractal, right? So the interesting and complex part about these goals also, yes, it's powered by collaboration. Nice swag, Tyler.
That's the term you're looking for. Powered by collaboration.
It is powered by collaboration. The other part is that they're all kind of nested. So when we talk about collaborative culture and value systems, we're also overlapping with goal 3, which is a shared vision. And your shared vision is like the North Star, so that it doesn't matter where we're coming from, what our perspectives are or experiences, that we're all shooting for the same kind of thing. So one of the things that was shared and created at the last ESHIP Summit was a document which I'll email to all of you, and that's something that Mike from ValueWeb helped create, and it talks about collaborative culture and the ways that we work with each other. And I want to welcome Faye. Faye didn't get a chance to hear all of our introductions, but we're going to put Faye on the spot because we like to do those kinds of things, and have you introduce yourself and what draws you to this goal. I don't know if she can hear me. I can't see you. Can you hear us, Faye?
So she's on a flight right now. I was wondering
okay.
how she even got in. I just disconnected with her before she popped on, but she's going to be in text only mode for a while.
Okay. Well, we appreciate her joining us. Thank you. All right. See, that's the way to avoid being put on the spot, right? So I will, I'm going to share the cultural document, but let's see. So for Brett, what is there something that stands out to you, speaks to you? Do you have questions about?
Speaking from the goal itself in these initiatives, well, generally speaking, the goal to me, and you asked this before, but it resonates because we've already seen a lot of, strains to culture based on the direction a lot of our working groups, our innovation councils take. And so I think this is paramount to any of the work that we're going to do is really getting people on the same page, overcoming some of, and usually those kind of skews in direction, they come from the perspective that individuals bring to the table about what's happening on the ground in each of their respective cities. So, if we don't get the culture piece down, if we don't create strong chemistry between the group that's looking to solve these problems, it really halts the entire process in its tracks. So, I feel like, this goal in particular really kind of speaks to one of the most important elements of this work. If we're going to actually achieve any level of measurable progress throughout it.
Great, I appreciate that. So let's see. Hang on. So Faye says, spent 2 years working in Winston-Salem ecosystem, horribly fractured, sliced the experience that led me to do this work. So that's why she founded, she left ESO and founded Forward Cities, right? So we're really happy to be partnering with that, and hopefully we'll get to meet with Faye next month when we're both in Kansas City at the same time. Eric, in your experience in collaborative cultures, oh, she didn't found it, she's just a peon. I don't think so, but that's okay. Eric, in the collaborative culture element, you work with ecosystem builders, and how, I'm just really curious about how that overlaps with your work in government.
Well, I guess we all have sort of these subcultures of the kind of work that we're doing. So, some of it's very much about the entrepreneur themselves. Some of those are from, say, the nonprofit world. Some are from government, and each, the common aspects of culture. So there's sometimes common languages. There's some maybe common expectations or a common world. So when we're trying to do this kind of work, we recognize that we really need to have all of these people participating in an active way, in a way that's meaningful for them, but that also, helps grow the overall, larger ecosystem. So I'm not sure, I'm probably just rambling, but so I think one of the things is getting the very fundamentals are something that whenever I've done a project and I have not really looked at the language or just kind of what each individual or each organization is seeking, when I haven't kind of glossed over that and assumed that maybe we had the same goals in mind, I feel like that has not led to the best outcome it possibly can. So I think, taking a very intentional approach to doing collaborative culture building is very valuable. So yeah, so I recognize it all over and over, and I think being in government the past 2.5 years has told me, wow, I had no idea how different the government culture really was. I had my opinions from other perspectives, but now I can kind of see, and since I've lived that experience, I can ideally bring a little bit more of that, that knowledge to the table.
Great. I appreciate that perspective. So does anybody feel like, so let me tell you the discussions that we had last week when we were talking about how to get, so right now we're focused from now until the ESHIP Summit. And the vision of the ESHIP Summit this year is really bringing national resource providers, the organizations that will help us do the work, whether it's funding or people or bandwidth or whatever it is that they bring to the table as a resource for us to get some of this moved forward. And to that end, we basically need to come up with investment ready models, and investment can be whether they have people that will work towards it, a dedicated staff member, financing some of these initiatives. So when we look at regional ecosystem, regional ESHIP summits or sub-ecosystem convenings, it's pretty much putting together a template of what would need to take place if we were to take ESHIP summits on the road. So I know that Tyler and Hassan and Eric have been to the ESHIP summits. Wynn, Brett, and Faye, have you been to an ESHIP summit?
I have.
I
went
not. And I have not.
Okay. So.
And Faye hasn't either.
Okay, so if you and Faye have not been, if you were to put together a convening of ecosystem builders to bring ecosystem building forward, say in a regional location, I mean, you're pretty specific to city focuses, but let's say in Atlanta, if you were to bring in from maybe a 2-hour radius, so include as far as Chattanooga and on up into South Carolina and down into Florida, if you were to host a convening, what would need to, I think what we're looking for is what kind of things that you feel would bring that work forward, right? Like if you're going to get all these people together, what do we need to do together that we can't do remotely? Because that's the whole idea of having a convening.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we actually have some experience with this. One of the things, you know, it was, I forget who, Hassan, was it you that mentioned I think prior relationship with Christopher, but so that was national work. And the way I tied into this before, and Faye has some familiarity with this, as a state in North Carolina, we took a look at, you know, some smaller towns as small as 3,000 people, but that had a university presence, ones that were larger like Greensboro and Asheville, and tried something really in line with this. It was called Innovate NC. The convening piece was a big part of it. And, you know, so I'll speak to that. The point of it was really to share, well, to create a community of practice, first off, leading up to and growing out of the convening so that people who are trying to tackle similar challenges can have, you know, peers in this space. But at the convening, the point was to really kind of focus on shared storytelling around best practices, highlighting of different city neighborhoods where attempts have been made to really expand on the entrepreneurial base in those particular parts of town, strategies for higher education, kind of a triangle of higher education, corporate, and small business collaboration that had oversight from councils of government or mayor's offices, things like that, very localized government. And then also, you know, just looking at some shared data and looking where deficiencies were and seeing, you know, where your peers stood in terms of their accomplishments in certain areas and where you might fall short and be able to learn from others. So, you know, I think that's historically something that we did do that would feed, you know, if you took Atlanta and said, all right, let's get Macon and Augusta and Athens and everybody coming into Atlanta to share best practices. Oh, Savannah, don't want to leave them out. You know, what can we learn together based on you know, some baseline city size. You don't want to compare an Atlanta to a Macon. You want to get Macons talking to smaller cities. So you do that first, and then you look for those best practices.
I love that. Thanks for the note, Faye, about the funding. I think your funding is absolutely integral. So I'm curious. I think that, you know, with ESHIP, we have the benefit of the Kauffman Foundation that's funding the summit itself. But from a regional standpoint, I'm wondering, and this is just basically playing devil's advocate and throwing it out there, whether or not we talk about collaboration, that it can't just be one entity. I think in some way, each community needs to bring something, whether or not it's funding, but maybe it's the venue, or maybe it's printing up things, or like each community has some kind of involvement. I mean, it's like putting together a summit in a potluck style to say everybody has something to contribute, and that everybody has skin in the game. So, I mean, that's just my personal stance. And I think that when people are invested in some way, it gives them more buy-in. It's not like I'm just going to write a check and we're good. It's that I'm invested in it too. So, so that's my take on it. When, as somebody who's been to an ESHIP summit, what parts of it did you see that you would want to translate in the regional level, and what should we keep top of mind when we're doing that?
I think it goes back to like that whole skin in the game. You know, I didn't go to ESHIP Summit and just hear a bunch of speakers and then walk away with things I need to read or topics I need to explore on my own. It's been very connected and collaborative, and it was a lot of dreaming on our own. It wasn't like, do this because, you know, this worked for me, so now you need to go replicate that. It was really, I don't know, it was very organic. It's kind of hard to describe ESHIP Summit because it was so darn cool, and I've never experienced anything like that before, where I walked away where I actually had like tangible things that I could work on that made sense for my community, that made sense for my role. And then also I see it as a national effort at happening. So if any way it could be like recreated, be like that whole collaborative, having thoughtful speakers, but not, you know, it's not just speakers, really have people, I guess like you have something, you're a part of it and you're working towards something, and you're also, I don't know, it has to do with you, but it also has to do with a larger scheme of things. So if that could just be recreated, that would be, I don't know, I think it'd be transformative when you think about a regional area. When you think about, you know, I sit in Florida, and like Palm Coast and Flagler County and Volusia County are very interesting because I sit in between Jacksonville and Orlando. And those are, you know, two big areas that everyone probably knows a little bit about. Jacksonville knows a little bit about Orlando, but Daytona, Ormond Beach, New Smyrna, we're forgotten. We're not Orlando, and we're not, you know, we're not Jacksonville. I don't know, Tyler's doing some cutoff there.
That's usually the case with Tyler. No, I love that. That's really
preach, sister, preach.
So does that mean with regional ESHIP, so to Faye's point about not having the community czars kind of take ownership around it, I'm wondering whether or not it becomes something that can be disassembled and put back together, where there's like, here's the food element for the first day, or here's like printing costs and ownership. Eric, what do you have?
Oh, let's see. My daughter just came here. Just a second. Boy, on that side of things, you know, I think so. I'm in the middle of planning a startup weekend for next weekend. So I love the fact that we've got all these spreadsheets and all these kinds of lists of things that we need to buy and stuff. So kind of getting all that kind of stuff, that whole back end of here's what you need in order to put this in, I think that's pretty valuable. So the previous question, I think there's a couple things that I think made it special for me. One is the there was an aspect of fun and play that I think, you know, was part of both the first two ESHIPs where, and also an opportunity to work together. So working on some kind of crazy project in a way kind of broke things down a little bit, but also got people to engage with the problems and challenges we have in a much more creative way. So I thought that was very valuable. The other thing that I thought was particularly good, you know, and each community has sort of different topics that I think it's valuable to bring somebody in from outside to do. But I particularly appreciated having folks like Felicia Hatcher, who does, was it Black Tech Week, and it was Shelley Bell with Black Girl Ventures. Having them kind of talk about how they developed their programs and how it was working in their cities was really, really valuable, because we really don't have something like that here in Albuquerque, and it's something that I know inspired not only me, but a couple other folks in town.
No, that's really important. So if I can invite all of you to put some of those thoughts down. Like I said, I think what we're trying to do is come up with a simpler template, but in the meantime, we have some work that's in those templates currently. And if we can add that, so things about what Faye just said about pointing to bringing it down and having regional research and who's already good at it. I think inviting, you know, I think part of that regional ESHIP thing is identifying key players and putting that information into the project brief so that we bring that top of mind and we don't lose that in the translation. Tyler, you've got something to say. I see you.
You see it dripping off my face, isn't it? No, first off, Faye, love everything that you're typing, by the way. You're clearly a rock star. I liked what Brett said. I really liked what Eric said. There was something there about like a facilitator kind of a role. You know, an ESHIP trained almost on the level of our cohort friends, Cecilia. You know, maybe that's kind of the, you know, hey, how did you guys do it? Well, we can send you a team and they can help you. And then you can have your own, and now you're part of this. That might be something to throw in. You know, I like that. And then I always felt like I definitely liked all the fun stuff and everything was there. But to me, a regional convening, especially something on this is big right now. And if you can bring together people who are not playing nicely together under the guise, you know, of the bigger picture, and get everybody on page very quickly, and then have that homework, that take-home homework to connect and follow up and challenge. I think you tend to de-silo the region by the next meeting, you know, is kind of the feeling. So that would be my ultimate goal if you were to do something like that, to start a series of those would be, you know, this is really the front lines of de-siloing everybody and realigning them, you know, to be their best selves as well. They all started with one particular focus, but as Wynn was saying, in our neck of the woods, everybody duplicates everybody. So it's really hard to get everybody's attention when we're all doing the same thing. So, you know, but we don't do it under the same flag. So that would be my 2 cents. So thanks, Cecilia.
So, so when you talk
the camera's moving because of the dog. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. No, you're fine. So Faye and Brett had talked about funding models that are already existing and have been done. I'm hoping that you can help contribute to the existing brief and fill in some of those as like, here's an example of what it costs so that we get some perspective. So the other part of the conversation that we had last week when we were up at Christine and myself were up at the foundation is that we want to get to an investment ready model, and to do that in a way. So we have a really unique opportunity right now. We've had people that are resource providers come back and say, if you can get us something, right, we can look at it and give you notes. You don't usually get that opportunity where somebody reviews your RFP and process and says, hey, so if you added something here, or we need more definition here, that you would have more valuable content. So that's kind of huge for us to be able to do that. And so that's why I want to concentrate on let's start with the briefs that are already pretty much filled out or have some content to them. If we can go ahead and take 2.1, which is the regional ESHIP, which we just discussed, and then the cultural ambassador training, which I'd like to talk about for the next couple of minutes, and get some ideas working on what parts do you feel need to be included in this document so that we can, by the end of the month, send it off to the resource providers and have them put notes in the margin. So talk to me about cultural ambassador training. What does that mean to you? Hassan, if you were going to be a cultural ambassador, or you wanted somebody who was a trained cultural ambassador, what would that translate to? What does that look like?
I think it's somebody who understands what it is that we do, because I think a lot of, especially in my region, I think that there are a lot of people, a lot of smaller communities that look at what was done in Detroit and want to replicate that, but don't know where the first thing to do to start, who to look to in terms of funding, who to look to for resources. So I think it's someone who's knowledgeable about ecosystem building, who's knowledgeable about this work that we do, and can bring people in to this fold.
It's going to be nice to look at drawn and crayon.
So when is somebody who works in the ecosystem, do you feel, what are some traits that you think a cultural ambassador needs to have?
I think probably one of the most important things is really, really good listening skills. I think that's really underrated, but I think just listening to people to understand exactly what it is that people need. I think sometimes there is, it's really easy to go in and tell people what to do or assume things about what people need. But I think someone who has really good listening skills, I mean, really basic stuff, someone who has really good listening skills who can establish rapport with people, who can build trust. And that's got to be someone who, whatever it is, whatever community that you're working with, someone that can relate to that community. And that could vary depending on different things. It could vary depending on sector. It could vary depending on demographics. Could vary depending on a lot of things. And it's not just in terms of relating, in terms of, whether it's a cultural thing or a gender thing or whatever it is. It can also be an industry thing, a sector thing, just someone that can relate to the people that they're dealing with.
Yeah, I was so upset.
Does anybody have anything else to add?
I'd like to hear from Wynn.
I got something.
Yeah.
Just because, like I said, I'm kind of in the thick of it, and I think whatever it is, like realistic of the silos that exist, because that's probably like the most defeating piece of this whole process, because you're trying to connect and you reach out and you're trying to create these connections that like people get offended. People want to know, like, why are you in my business? This is what I do. That's not what you do. So it's almost, there's like an opportunity to like troubleshoot maybe some like things that happen, and like, hey, you're gonna, like, it's not just go talk to these people and yeah, you're gonna be friends at the end of the day, because that's not, I mean, it does work out sometimes, but that's not always the case. So I don't know if it's like a training for personality or training, like here's some ways to overcome some of these barriers, but I definitely think that's gonna have to be key, because that's really the one reason why that collaborative culture needs to happen, is because it doesn't exist. It's because the silos exist. So I don't know what that looks like and the right words to say it, but I guess almost like a realistic expectation of what's to come and maybe some ways to overcome it, because it's going to happen.
I think you did just great explaining that. And I think Faye's absolutely right about a bridge builder. And when we talk about all these goals being nested in other goals, that diverse ecosystem builder part is really important. So that's goal number one, is inclusive field. And when we talk about inclusive field, it's not just major identity markers, but also socioeconomic and things that you can't see. So there's all kinds of things that that go along with that. One of the things I talked to Chris Harris, who deals with market gaps at Kaufman, about was trying to find an identifying way to have people take assessments of how they are culturally, like cultural competency gauges. And there's a really great tool that I'm hoping that we'll be able to embrace and utilize as a base level. So keep your fingers crossed. That will be post ESHIP. They're really in the middle of this inclusion open right now. I know last year they got like 700 applications, so they have to read through all of them. So I totally get, this is not the first thing on their plate right now, but I think the bridge builder, also a translator. So somebody like, I use Eric as an example often. So Eric and Reagan Hales, who's in economic development in Amarillo, and she's a startup champion member and an ecosystem builder. So she's been to the summits and such. And so she's a great translator. But even translators like Louisa Shepard, who is one of our ESHIP champions. Louisa works in Memphis, and while her job does not entail data, she loves data. So she's a data geek, and unlike some other people who are data geeks, she's able to speak to people in plain language that don't understand the data geek stuff. If you talk about quantified methods and statistics and all of that, but to be able to drill down and translate it. So anyway, that's something that that we're hoping for, is more translators, more bridge builders. Brett, I see you have something to say, and thank you, Faye.
Yeah, one of the things that I think is worth bringing up is the importance of human-centered design in all of this work. And I think especially in culture building, it's really important to bring the mindset of an empath, to consider the end user that we're ultimately looking to affect in everything that we do, especially as we consider, who these ambassadors are and what they need to know to be successful. It's just kind of, a lot of people, I think, overlook it, and they assume it, or they just don't give it enough credit. But it's such an important element to me. I feel like it has to be taught and stressed in this phase if we're going to really get people to be true ambassadors. And tear down those silos and really kind of bring us to a point of some kind of common understanding.
So that's interesting that you said that, because we have this discussion about silos all the time, and I'm not a huge fan of tearing them down. I'm a bigger fan of trying to connect the communication around the silos. I think silos, and this is just my personal opinion, silos are where we laser focus and get the job done. If we can't focus and get the job done, then nothing happens. The problem is that we replicate the efforts because we're doing our own thing in each silo. So the communication is paramount between the silos. I was talking to a friend of mine at Mozilla, and I said, what can we do to better improve the communication? Like, why can't Slack and Meetup and all of these communication tools be improved to do that? And he said, it's proprietary content, and they don't want you to speak nicely with the other groups, because then you don't need to subscribe to those individual models, right? So he said it's a people thing. So it will take people always that are going to be the connectors between them. So that's, I guess it's kind of job security for all of us. And also, those are the things that we need to have happen, right? Is a lot of communication. I appreciate what you're saying about the silos, and yeah, I want to tear them down just a little bit, but maybe not all the way. So maybe lowering the walls. So I don't know, but it's definitely something that needs to be discussed. So
yeah, maybe a way to look at it is just, you know, in tearing them down, you're tearing down what hides your understanding of what's happening behind that silo, and so you're expanding your perspective. I mean, that's ultimately, you know, what empathy is about, right? It's expanding your perspective so that you can be more mindful of the experience of others. And so it's a metaphorical tearing down that leaves them intact, but because it's a really good point that we all need to be, you know, we need to feel comfortable in our home, but we also need to be respectful of the other ones that we're going to continuously interact with.
Well, so, hey, this is Eric. Sorry,
Right.
I'd raised my hand. So one thing I think might be, so I like the tearing down, but it's recognizing that in a lot of ways, these individual events aren't going to fix anything in particular, but we are ideally kind of getting ourselves into a mode where we are beginning to work or develop a process where we can work together. So depending on where a community is at, you know, maybe there's some kind of assessment to say, hey, we really need on, you know, we're at the beginning. We need to build awareness and respect for what each other does and how valuable it can be. Or, you know, we respect each other, but we still haven't been able to work on something in a collaborative fashion. You know, maybe we find something that does that. But I think, you know, each community may have a different challenge that they need to overcome. So I think recognizing some places, they just need to get these people to talk to each other, whereas other people might be like, you know, we're ready to go. We just need some tools.
I think that's absolutely appropriate. So I want to be mindful of everyone's time, and can I invite all of you to take at least the first two briefs, the regional ESHIP and the cultural ambassador training that we just discussed today, and work on curating them. If you can, whatever edits and additions that you add to those two at the end of the month, I will present it to the resource providers that have pledged to give us some notes. And I mean, we can try for all four, but I want to make sure that we're mindful. We're going to start with two. And if we can do that by the end of the month, then in the week prior to our call, I will get feedback. So they said realistically, if we can give them a week or so to look at it, that we can get input and feedback, and we can really fine tune them. So, so that's my ask of all of you. Tyler, you've got something. What you want?
I was going to say that just do 1 and 2, because honestly, I kind of feel like the completion of 1 and 2 will create 3 and 4, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
You know, so I think if you as a group and as a goal group, and I'll participate where I can, I think that's going to be awesome for us as a whole. You know, and this is really cool stuff. So, yeah, I'll just say breaking down silos. Yeah, Brett, that was good stuff. I find as a salesperson, as a professional salesperson that I've been for the last 20 years, and now I'm selling you guys, but that often the first conversation started as, how is this person a threat? Not how is this person a potential partner? Because I'm a sales guy. You don't want to talk to me. So I think you guys as an industry just need to learn how to talk to each other over again, just how to start and say, look, you know, what is it you just want to do? You know, what does you want to do? And I won't do that, and I'll go do this, and then it'll work together. So it seems to be working in Daytona, and Volusia, Wynn, I think, is starting to attest to some of the things that are happening. So you guys are on the right track. I'm glad I joined your call today. So
Excellent. And
Setting up.
that storytelling thing that Tyler and a couple of other people are working on is infused in all of these goals as well. So it's really important that we get to tell that story. So,
and I will be reaching out to you guys for to clear up some quotes and stuff. But yeah, not goal 8. It's not goal 8.
It's not goal 8. Okay. So so now just to wrap up, we'll work on those two goals. We can communicate. There is a Slack channel that you can join and specific to this goal, so we can continue the conversation. It's not like nothing happens in between. So please feel free to email, message, and we'll work on stuff together. That's what collaboration's all about. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to take my colleague's mantra that I've embraced too, and that's modeling what's needed to create what's possible. So that's our mantra for Christine and I as ESHIP goal activators. So I will email the information for the Slack channel, and I will email you the piece that Mike Fleisch helped create for Collaborative Cultures. Anything else you need, feel free to contact me back and at ESHIP. So if you email eshipgoals@gmail, that goes to Christina and myself. So I used to say 2 birds with one stone, but she doesn't like that language. So it's feeding 2 birds with 1 scone. Okay, and so just
with 1 hook.
Yeah. So if I can get everyone to give us a word to wrap up the call on how you're feeling now, that would be great. I will start with Win.
I'm feeling great. I'm glad I was able to join the call, and I'm glad we're still making movement and looking forward to ESHIP and presenting some really cool ideas.
You've got to call on somebody, Win.
I'm so sorry. I'm going to call on Brett.
Enhanced is my understanding of how other people are looking at this work, and how it can obviously lead into me contributing better to the group. So I'll spin it to Tyler.
What are we looking forward to? Is that it? Oh.
Your single word.
Single word. Excited. And I will go to my man in Albuquerque, greatest stash in the Southwest.
Well, I'm strangely happy. I'll just say I'm really happy. Glad I had a chance to make it in on this call. I get really motivated. That's more than 1 word. I don't know who else is on the call. Is Hassan still there?
I am here.
Yes.
1 word, collaboration. I'm going to steal Tyler's word from earlier.
Excellent. And Faye put in hopeful, which I think we all are too. So one thing I learned about culture, and the Culture Code book by Daniel Coyle, if you haven't read it, is an absolutely fabulous book. And he talks about the need to be vulnerable in order to create trust. It doesn't work the other way around. You can't build trust and hope that people are going to be vulnerable. If you are vulnerable, then you trust. And so knowing that we don't have all the answers, I think each one of us has a part of the answer, and we will look forward to coming together and creating this thing together. And like Victor says, we're going to get it wrong, and that's okay, because we've got some of the best people that are working on this thing. So I look forward to communicating in between, and then we'll be back next month on same channel, right? So have a great month. Bye, everyone.
Thanks so much.
Bye.
Bye, guys.